So fein, zu hören. Wow. Ich nehme das ein bisschen näher. Wer versteht nicht kein Jiddisch? You all understand one language or the other, right? Okay. But have no fear, the talk is going to be in English today. Oh, I know. One day you'll do it in Yiddish, right? So welcome, a guten Nachmittag zu euch allen. Ich heiße Miri Corral, ich bin die Vorsitzerin von dem California Institute für Jiddische Kultur und Sprache. What did I say? Somebody?
Institute for Language.
Right, the director of the California Institute for Yiddish Culture. I have so many former students in here. Really, you should all be able to do this very well. And it's really great to see that, by the way. It's wonderful. So I want to thank you all for coming this afternoon. In the new year, 2016, we are continuing with our gallop through Yiddish culture. We are finding all kinds of new ways to show you the manner in which Yiddish culture has influenced modern American culture, mainstream, what we consider mainstream culture. And today's program is just one of those many ways. Some of you came to the one about rock and roll. Did any of you come to that? Yes? Which is a wonderful talk. I wish we had recorded it, but maybe we'll get an encore. How many of you didn't come to that? Would you like to come to it? Maybe we'll get him back, because it was really, those of you who were there, did you enjoy it? I mean, I heard such great feedback from it. It was really fantastic. So, good. We'll bring him back. And we had a wonderful film. The comedian Mike Burstein presented that. Again, the influence of Yiddish theater, of Yiddish humor on mainstream American culture. So one of the things that has happened in these last weeks, it was the end of the year, we got wonderful memberships, we got wonderful donations. So I want to thank you all, everyone who has become a member of CIYCL. I think we have something like 80 members now, which is amazing. And as you know, if you come to all our events, it basically pays for itself in the year. So don't hesitate to do that if you have a chance to become a member. It makes us stronger, makes us feel like you all care about what we are doing. Because, it is, for some people, it's a completely lost cause. But not for us, right? Absolutely not. It's something that needs to endure. It needs to endure for future generations. We have to hold that torch for the future. Even if we don't grow it at the moment down the road, who knows what purpose it will have and how important it will be for people to know the language and to understand the essence of the culture and the language. So that's why we are doing what we're doing. So I want to thank our members. I want to thank our supporters. I want to definitely thank the Santa Monica Synagogue for allowing us again to be in this beautiful space today. Rabbi Jeff Marks gave us a talk about cream cheese, the great American cream cheese myth. It's online. It is now something that you can visit online. You can hear his talk if you're interested. Many of our previous programs are now online on our website. Please make use of this resource of our website. It has so much going for it. It has a tribute page to Lilke Meisner, to Moshe Shklar, who are really, those of you who are here who know how important they were to the Yiddish-speaking community in Los Angeles. And there are video links to some events related to both of those wonderful individuals. We will soon have a video link to Theo. We have links to the Living Yiddish Treasures, Last Golden Links video series that we did. We'll have more of that soon. So please visit it. But one of the things we have is a Yiddish horoscope, which you see in front of you. So let's see. If somebody volunteer their birth sign. Somebody, July. Okay, so what sign is that? July? Cancer. So let's go down to there, Cancer. Okay. So could somebody read it who's close by? Arva, could you read it?
This month will be a month of Bashlissen Fadekra. You may have put off difference and disagreements. Put off differences and disagreements. You have come to a Bashlos and agreements. Advice: take a step back and see the bigger picture.
Okay, so we have it's an opportunity to learn some words. Okay, so the words here are Bashlis, Bashlissen, Bashlus. Yeah, Bashlus is agreement. Bashlissen is to agree, to the verb. So an opportunity, and you have a proverb out of it as well, and the proverb is von eilenisch kommt kein Guts nicht heraus. Yeah, so acting out of pressure doesn't lead to good results, as we all know, and then you have a link to. Did you know that you share the same sign with Yitzhak Katznelson? a very amazing poet worth knowing about. This is an opportunity to learn something about Yiddish literature, Yiddish culture on a deeper level. So there's a link to Yitzhak Katznelson, who perished in the Holocaust but left us some extraordinary works of poetry. Truly extraordinary. So this is the kind of thing. One more. Let's do just one more. Yes?
25. März.
März. Okay, März is Gemini, right? Nein.
No.
März is, which one is, I'm sorry, I don't know them all.
No.
Aries. Aries. Okay, so it's Der Baran, yeah, is the word for the ram. Okay, so this month we'll test Der Baran. When life seems to be at a standstill, you will be like a Vogler in the desert, not knowing which way is right. Advice. There's always advice. Reassess your Zielen. Determine if you are on track or not. Whether you're on track or not, trust in yourself and see your way through to your goals. Okay? So words, der Vogler, wanderer, and Zielen, goals. Yeah, Zielen, goals. Just a chance to learn something. And then you have an expression, as man spart sich ein, führt man aus. If you're determined, you will succeed. And a notable Yiddish figure, Chaim Grade. Not bad, right? To share with Chaim Grade. Some of you probably all know who he is. Yes, Chaim Grade. Some are more well known in popular culture than others. So it's just an opportunity to explore and learn more.
One more.
You have to go to the website yourself and look, because we don't want to delay too much today. Okay? Okay. You should go.
Chaim Grade was, it was a cultural club.
Chaim Grade was even in LA in the Kultur Club. Yes. So in living memory. Which is.
Ago.
I have to tell you about what's coming up this year. We have so many things. Next month, February, is a Jewish Cabaret Symposium and Live Cabaret. It'll be at the UCLA School of Music, February 25th. All of this is on our website. Mark will tell you more about that because it's something that he is organizing. Some of it will be in Yiddish. We're skipping March because in April we have two loaded things. One is a concert on April 10th. It's called The City of the Future. And it features the music of Russian Yiddish composer Shmuel Polanski, and we're going to have amazing musicians, Yael Strom, Elizabeth Schwartz, Michael Alpert, a bunch of other musicians. It'll be at UCLA Hillel, and that's going to be April 10th. April 17th through 20th, we have managed to bring David Katz. Any of you know who is David Katz? Yes, so we're bringing David Katz to UCLA. He's going to be giving a series of not one, not two, but three lectures, two of which are actually workshops, seminars, just to give you an example of what that is. Not entirely in Yiddish, but definitely about Yiddish. We may have time to do a workshop with him in intermediate Yiddish, it depends. But so his public lecture on April 17th is called Yiddish and Power. Not what you expect, right? The social, intellectual, and political empowering of the masses by one of the world's most exotic languages. How's that for a title grabber? And then he's going to do a seminar on the fate of Yiddish in the Soviet Empire, and a workshop on methodologies for cultural reconstruction of minorities in Eastern Europe, the case of Yiddish. May, backed by popular demand, Professor Yoshiki Hirose of Japan is going to talk about you got a little taste of two Japanese Schindlers. He's going to be talking some more based on his recent research on that other Japanese Schindler who's Setsuzo Kotsuji. I'm sure I mangled that, but he's going to be talking about that. And then in June, the crown, of our program is going to be everything you ever wanted to know about Yiddish, but were afraid to ask your bubbe, or forgot to ask your bubbe. And we're bringing from New York Shane Baker. Some of you know who he is. Shane Baker, who's an amazing comedian and the head of the Kulturkongress, the Congress for Jewish Culture, as well as a beautiful singer, Miriam Chaya Siegel, and they're going to be doing in a comic fashion, literally, anything you wanted to know about Yiddish. And it's going to be thanks to the LA City Library, thanks to Wendy Westgate here. Would you stand up for a minute? Yes. Who's helping to arrange this. And we're going to be doing it at the beautiful Mark Taper Auditorium in the downtown Central Library. Not the first time we've done Yiddish there. We did a whole thing on LA Yiddish authors in 1998 at that same stage. So we've already broken ground there. But yes, yes. So okay, we have lots of things, right? All right. So
plans for Ruth Weiss?
Yes.
Also at the paper on March 20th is a klezmer Jews concert.
Thank you. Oh, really? The same thing downtown?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, I am.
And yes, and more Yiddish
One more
news.
thing is January 24th at Valley Shalom, I'm doing a Yiddish sing-along with the accordion. Maybe Gustavo's going to come play clarinet. So I have some flyers Sunday, January 24th. It's 3 o'clock.
Okay, and then there's
Yiddish
also
sing-along.
something at Skirball, the Yiddish art trio this month. So lots. Isn't it amazing?
You have a very Yiddish day going to both of them. Going to Cindy
I know, and then
Art Trios.
okay, same day. Okay, very good.
It's in the Jewish Journal.
It's in the Jewish Journal. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so it is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Mark Kligman. Some of you already know, if you heard him before here in this very same location not that long ago. He's the inaugural holder of the Mickey Katz Endowed Chair in Jewish Music, and he's a professor of ethnomusicology and musicology at UCLA in the Herb Alpert School of Music. From 1994 to 2014, he was on the faculty of Hebrew Union College at the Jewish Institute of Religion. And he specializes in many arenas, but one of the specialties is liturgical traditions of Middle Eastern Jewish communities and various areas of popular Jewish music. So with this main area of focus, the liturgical music of Syrian Jews in Brooklyn, he showed the interconnection between the music of Syrian Jews and their cultural way of life. His 2009 book, Makam and Liturgy, did I pronounce that right? Makam and Liturgy, Ritual, Music, and Aesthetics of Syrian Jews in Brooklyn, was awarded a 2009 Jordan Schnitzer Book Award Notable Selection, which is an award of the Association for Jewish Studies. His other publications focus on the intersection of contemporary Jewish life and various liturgical and paraliturgical musical contexts. You'll have to explain what paraliturgical is. Professor Kligman is also the academic chair of the Jewish Music Forum, a board member of the Association for Jewish Studies, and co-editor of the journal Musica Judaica. He's a popular speaker in forums around the city, country, and even the world. And he gave us this wonderfully informative lecture about Mickey Katz last spring. So we're really lucky to have him here today. Professor Mark Kligman.
I'm a huge fan of Mary Coral, so I think that, spending 20 minutes just telling you about what we're going to do next reminds me of many of my family functions. We'd spend great effort to get together, and as soon as we get together, we talk about when we're going to get together next. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So this is going to be a fabulous program that we're doing at UCLA. It's going to be an afternoon symposia on the cabaret-esque in Jewish music by leading scholars. Phil Bowman, a scholar at the University of Chicago, who's done a lot of research on Jews and the cabaret, along with some other faculty, Tamar Levitz at UCLA Musicology, Paul Lerner at USC, and Stefan Pennington at Tufts to talk about the intersection between Jewish life in Germany, in Europe, and America, and the cabaret. Really fascinating topic that I'm putting together. And then this group called the New Budapest or FAM Society, who've already put out 3 CDs, and their last CD called When Dreams Fall Apart was just nominated for a Grammy. And they will be performing at UCLA in the Schoenberg Hall at 8 p.m. The events are free. All you have to do is get to UCLA to make this work. And I hope you can all come because these programs cost a lot of gelt. There's very, very expensive programs to do, and it's very important that I hope that they'll be successful. I know that the people who are involved are really terrific, and if you could come, it would really, really be great to show support for it. Okay, so today, without further ado, I'm going to talk about Yiddish theater. And Yiddish theater, of course, is a fascinating topic to discuss. One of the most challenging things about talking about Yiddish theater is that the materials that we have, though, are actually quite limited. It really would be great to really show readily have. Most of the Yiddish theater productions were done sort of without music or just a lead sheet. It wasn't until later that they would be orchestrated or there would be ways to reconstruct them, but many of them were done in a very, very simple fashion. But yet there is a lot of material to talk about in terms of looking at it, but we have to do some sort of comparative work to really understand it. So as a basic way of understanding, oh, thank you, okay. Usually my son does that, but he's in the back on his iPad, but I don't want to embarrass him, so I won't. So, all right, so if we look at opera, which of course is a very important art form, whenever I talk about opera to today's college students, I always say, if you think of the most important art form today, what would you say? And most people say movies, right? Because movies, I was one of them going to the premiere of Star Wars because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But the fact that movies have such an impact on culture in the United States and worldwide is so significant. That's the impact that opera had in culture in the 17th century, the 18th century, and the 19th century. So the music was very formal in opera. There was no dialogue. Music was developed through what was called a recitative and an aria. And operetta, which developed in the 19th century, sometimes had formal music, but there began to be more dialogue, and the narrative wasn't always propelled by the music. Sometimes the narrative was propelled by the spoken word. But the drama, the most dramatic scenes, did really happen through music. A musical is different in that regard, in that the music is in a more popular idiom, there's more dialogue in it, and most of the music just punctuates the drama. The drama has already happened, and the music is just sort of punctuating the things that are happening. Now, we could discuss these definitions. In some ways they work, in some ways they don't work. But as a basic understanding, when we want to put Yiddish theater into this mix, it's somewhere in sort of this region over here. It's usually, or it starts and begins in very popular forms of music. There are ways in which we'll talk about that people try and formalize it a little bit more. But usually the drama is happening through dialogue as well as song. And this is something that really happens in so many other cultures where there's satirical forms of opera and musical performance. There's opera buffa, there's opera comique, different forms of opera that really develop in various cultural arenas. A lot more to really say about that, but in the Jewish culture, what's significant to know is that while we look at Yiddish theater as really developing in the late 19th century, with Abraham Goldfaden, it really comes out of a tradition in Jewish culture of Purim Spielen, right? The Purim plays that are done in a context of telling the Purim story, that people develop those stories in ways that speak about their own contemporary culture and sort of have a mix of reality of sort of a mythic past and how they put the present within that particular perspective. And also something else called the Badchin, right? The Badchin in the Jewish wedding, the court jester who's really telling stories. And these are all sort of also very much part of the origins, oh, thank you, of Yiddish theater. That is the era that we also call the golden age of the American cantorate. It's the time period where 2 million Jews are coming from Eastern Europe to the United States. And what makes the golden age of the cantorate so iconic is that the music is recorded on, of course, 78s. And the fact that the music is recorded, we know what cantor Yosel it is. We don't have to guess at what they sound like. We know what they sounded like. We had another time, I'd be happy to tell you a lot more about the golden age of the cantorate. There actually are videos of some of these cantors singing as well, which are really fascinating, but very, very, very limited videos of them. But we call this same era, relatedly, the golden age of Yiddish theater. And we sort of look at the golden age. You always find the golden age when you're out of the golden age, right? You are sort of looking back really towards the past. But this is the time period when these particular arenas of music and Jewish culture are really developing. So what I want to do is sort of give you sort of a basic framework of looking at different eras of Yiddish theater. And the first half of my talk will be going through different eras of Yiddish theater, giving you different examples of it. And then the second half will be looking at how Yiddish theater has had an impact on American popular culture. So we'll begin by talking about Abraham Goldfaden and the folk music that began Yiddish theater in 1878, and then move into the early 1900s. So it's as you say in Hebrew, I don't know how you say this in Yiddish, but Be'erech 1910, around 1910, not a fixed. Say Be'erech in Yiddish, okay. Oh yeah, so, paraliturgical, I didn't know how to say that in Yiddish. Erech 1910, around this time period, things really begin to change in Yiddish theater as it comes into America and has very much of a vaudeville style, which we'll look at. And finally, by the late 1920s into the 1920s, it really develops into a more matured art form. And then eventually, Yiddish theater, in a sense, gets eclipsed by Yiddish cinema. And Yiddish theater really does begin to wane. It's like most things with looking at klezmer music too. Although it wanes, you still find forms of course, in Yiddish theater, there are still productions of Yiddish theater. The folk Spina, which operates in New York, doesn't operate like it used to, but it's still a functioning entity in a very interesting way. So I want to begin with, in terms of talking about Yiddish theater, is looking at Abraham Goldfaden, who was raised in a very religious Jewish community, was a very learned Jew. He then worked as a journalist and was traveling around and really through this like period of enlightenment in the 19th century was really encountering many, many different stories, finding out about Shakespeare, really learning about Western culture and wanting to take these ideas and express them into the Jewish community. I'm sure many of you know the stories of Abraham Goldfaden because everyone talks about them when you talk about Yiddish theater. So Yiddish theater begins in 1876. This is at least one picture of Bar Kochba. He often takes biblical stories or biblical subjects and makes them the topic of his various programs. And this is from sheet music published in 1883. Let's go to the next couple other images to show you. One is this very, very interesting one, a poster in Romania of Bar Kokhba, and you can see that it's sort of a mix of different languages, but it's announcing the celebrated author Goldfaden's Bar Kokhba, as you see there. Let's go to the next one. Get to some music in just a second. So Shalamis is sort of one of his first really well-known hits, and there's a very important song that comes out of this. Let's go to the next one called Picture off the YIVO website. And this comes from 1937-1938 of a picture of a production of the Warsaw Yiddish Art Theater of Shalamis. And you can sort of see this sort of stylization of a harp, which is associated with King David. And the story of Shalamis is that someone sort of traveling on the way to the temple and sort of encounters this woman Shalamis in a well. And the story of Shalamis is a very interesting story because it's not a biblical story, it's sort of a midrashic story. It has sort of different sort of tellings of it. But this is sort of hearkening back to the times of the temple. So let's go to the next one. And this is, of course, one of the most well-known Yiddish theater songs, or if we would say what were the top 5 Yiddish theater songs, this is certainly would be one of them, Rosh and Kismet Mondlin. And what's interesting to note about it is that we know that Goldfaden, or as far as we know, wrote the words to this. The melody of it is a little bit of a controversy amongst music scholars. We don't know if Goldfaden actually wrote this melody or this melody was adapted from some other folk songs or folk sounds. But what's so fascinating as we hear this is that it's going to sound, in the very beginning, very much like cantorial music. It's going to sound very familiar in the Eastern European musical world. So the first recording I'll play is a 1920s recording. As I usually do in these sort of presentations, everyone loves to sing along. Feel free to do that. But I also want you just to listen to this recording because it's not going to be one you've probably heard before. So let's go ahead.